Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready?
Going with the flow.
All right, let's do this. I'd like to call the session, a work session on Monday, May 19th. We're doing very well. It's just a few minutes after 5, huh? Okay. We are all here except Joe Pizzillo, Vice Mayor Pizzillo. Do I need, no. Okay, so that they're aware he will not attend this meeting. We only have one item on the work session. It's a big item. The council will receive an overview of the draft of the city's strategic action plan 1517. Kim Bradford, interim budget and research manager, to present. Kim?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to be before you reviewing a draft of the fiscal year 15 to 17 City Strategic Action Plan. That's an update to our existing adopted plan based on updates that have occurred over the last 6 months since our last review, as well as incorporating direction from the council retreat in November. So tonight I'll be giving a brief overview of the plan, the vision, and the 4 strategic priorities that guide our activities, not only in the budget but in our day-to-day operations. I will talk about how this plan fits into our overall performance management program that we have here in the city. I will touch on some key updates that have occurred over the last 6 months. As I mentioned, we did have a work session in October where we gave a thorough update. We do have the complete plan as part of the packet for this evening's meeting that has an update on all the action items. I will highlight just some of those, but certainly we can discuss any items that are in the plan or answer any questions. And then I will talk about the retreat direction that we received in November. If you recall back to that time, we actually talked about adding a goal within economic vitality related to transportation, and then also some specific action items to incorporate into our existing goals. So I'll review that with the council as well. And then receive any direction on changes or updates that you'd like to see in the plan before it's brought back to you for formal adoption on June 23rd.
So you don't mind if they just ask at any time?
Whenever
Okay,
you have
so
a question.
Wave me down, guys. Okay.
Yes. So if you recall, this plan has evolved from a collaborative effort on the part of council and staff, really beginning back in 2011 when the council had a retreat and honed in on the vision for the city, and that's really where we saw the emergence of those 4 strategic priorities, which I'll discuss in a moment. Back in 2012 at our retreat, we went through step by step of this draft plan, reviewed every goal, purpose statement, action item, talked about time frames, and really synthesized this into a plan that we would then adopt in April of 2013. We did incorporate action into the title on purpose. I'll talk more about that as we get to the performance management program, but this is really our action plan for things that we're working on over the next 3 years. But when I talk about the cycle, you'll see it's not static. It's something that we update and evolve each year throughout the course of the year. We do utilize this during our budget process. We've also incorporated it into our retreat discussion so we can make sure that we are keeping our plan aligned with emerging priorities and council direction, and then we also use it as a vehicle to communicate updates on how things are progressing. So this is a snapshot of the vision that is adopted within our strategic plan. The City of Goodyear will be a great place to live, work, and raise a family, a city with healthy lifestyles and a commitment to the environment, a growing community that provides quality opportunities and lifestyles, and we will be known as a destination place for regional shopping, for higher education that's designed to meet our workforce needs, a place for diverse job opportunities and an inventory of industries, an incubator for entrepreneurs, and a hub of arts and culture in the West Valley. As I mentioned, we had 4 strategic focus areas that emerged from the initial discussion on the plan back in 2011. We've also since used that as a platform for our priority-based budgeting initiative, and you'll see some wording underneath those 4 areas to make sure that we're keeping those aligned with each other. We do have fiscal and resource management, which we also refer to as our governance model, and that's making sure that we are utilizing efficiently our fiscal and human resources within the city. Economic vitality, which includes not only those growth-related items, but also you'll see there that we've highlighted that it includes transportation, mobility, and infrastructure. That's one of the components that was pulled out in our priority-based budgeting effort that also led to the discussion of adding a goal, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The sense of community strategic priority, that's really focused on communications with our citizens and stakeholders, higher education, and then also the events that we host in the community. And then quality of life, which includes our safe community focus, which is not only our traditional public safety, police, and fire, but also the focus on a clean, well-maintained community. This graphic represents our performance management program, and you'll see this during different presentations. I know we've seen it during City Stat and then also the general plan. But it really gives you a picture of where what we're talking about fits into our overall strategy, which you can see is a pretty big component there outlined in red in the middle, but really starts with the feedback from our citizens that we garner not only through our citizen satisfaction survey, but also through communications that we have throughout the year, maybe directly with staff or feedback from council. As I mentioned, we also have strategic prioritization discussions with the council, not only as part of the budget process, but we've incorporated that into our annual retreat. We also have the general plan, which is kind of our long-range vision for the city. And as you know, we've been working, specifically Development Services has been working over the past 18 months or so to update that 10-year plan, and that really sets the vision for our city. And if you recall, they have strategies incorporated also, kind of like we have our strategic priorities, and they're focused on economic development, a socially and physically connected community, parks and open space, art, partnerships and collaboration, and a sustainable community and economy. So as we talk about our strategic priorities, you'll see that those dovetail really nicely. So the strategic action plan comes into play. It's really our document for moving those general plan priorities forward, what we're going to be working on over the next 3 years, that you'll see carries through to the department strategic plans, their one-year operational plans. We talk about them in our priority-based budgeting model, and then circle back with them through our City Stat performance management program, and then kind of start the cycle over again. This diagram shows how we use the plan to respond to emerging priorities and keep it flexible in a living document, so it truly is an action plan for us. We start, as I mentioned, with the citizen survey and then use it at the annual retreat. We have better aligned this update process with our budget process, and so that's why you'll see we have the timing of the work session at the tentative budget adoption, and then we will be adopting the final plan on June 23rd, which is in alignment with our final budget. And really because this prioritization process is reflected in those budget items that you'll see moving forward. One other item to note is that we also are typically scheduling an update, a progress update on those plans right before the council retreat, so you can hear what items have been completed, where items are, and so if we want to discuss reprioritization in the retreat, you have a good foundation for where things stand today. So I'll talk a little bit about the highlights that are in the plan. As I mentioned, we do have a full update in the fiscal year 15-17 draft that was provided in the council packet. We also did have a couple of work sessions where a number of our departments presented updates on their budgets and gave updates on items that are in the strategic plan. But I thought I would just take a few minutes to talk about what some of those initiatives are that have specifically moved forward over the last 6 months. In our fiscal and resource management area, we have our City Stat program, which was established, and we distributed a book last July when we adopted the budget. We are incorporating highlighted measures. You saw those in the department-based budget presentations, and then you will also see those components highlighted in our budget book this year, so more of a visual, easy-to-read performance management update in the budget book. And then we also are streamlining this through the use of SharePoint, so not only a collaboration and easy management within the city to update, but also a vehicle to then update to our new website so we can display that on a regular basis to the citizens. We completed our initial model in the priority-based budgeting initiative, and you saw those reflected in our supplemental requests as far as which quartile those items reflected in the results. And then we've also initiated a monthly report to council on key policy questions, and that way we can start to frame discussions on what are areas that the council would like to discuss and for us to delve further into. When we adopt the fiscal year 15 budget, we will also be updating that model so we can make sure we keep it up to date with our current budget. We maintained our proactive ballpark debt service plan. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the budget later this evening. But as you know, one of our strategic items is to proactively plan for the Public Improvement Corporation debt service in 2019 in the event that the Arizona Sports and Tourism Authority does not begin their reimbursements by that time. So this is the third year we have incorporated that into our budget. We're advancing our water resource planning, not only through our capital improvement plan and the integrated water master plan update, but a 5-year strategy for building a transmission line for bringing the CAP, Central Arizona Project Water, to the city. Our fleet facility is scheduled to open up in July. That's been under construction and actually under development for probably about a year and a half, so we're very excited about that. We continue leveraging our partnership with Maricopa Association of Governments to advance our fiber infrastructure in the city, and the council discussed some additional agreements last week. And then our enterprise resource planning system, we have been working through the request for proposal process probably over the last 4 or 5 months, and in next year's budget you see reflected in our capital plan funding to move that to the purchasing of an application and implementation phase. In economic vitality, we have had a joint work session with Planning and Zoning and City Council on the update to those design guidelines, and Council will be considering those next month. We continue to move many of our master plans forward. As you know, we have probably about an 18-month road behind us in terms of the general plan, and Council has several activities in the month of June related to that plan as a precursor to voter ratification in November. And then also the Parks and Transportation Master Plan will be coming back to the Council following those work sessions you just had for final adoption. We opened our Innovation Hub incubator space in partnership with the Maricopa County Library District and Arizona State University, and also are pursuing an Economic Development Authority grant for a future potential tech incubator, and so that is in direct alignment with our vision, as you saw, that we intend to be a hub for incubators. We continue our partnership with the Phoenix Goodyear Airport, not only in anticipation of their master plan update activities later this year or early 2015, but also on partnership for marketing that airport employment corridor in a coordinated manner to move that forward. And then lastly, we were selected for the technical assistance panel for the Urban Land Institute, and so since we last reported, we actually held that session. We are awaiting a final report, but again, that goes toward our economic development priorities as far as how can we strategically move our economic corridors forward. Sense of community, we continue our efforts related to higher education to add institutions to Goodyear to join Franklin Pierce University, and we'll be working on a request for proposal coming up. Sorry, I heard myself and I got distracted. Yeah.
Nobody else heard it.
Oh, no. But we will be bringing forward a request for proposal on a strategy for recruitment in that area.
And when is that?
That's for higher education.
No, I know, I said when.
That will be later this year. We're working on that right now.
You want to add
Yes.
anything to that, City
Yes.
Manager?
I would just add, we have a draft request for proposal. We do have money in the budget for this that's a carryover, and it is high on our priority, and we're already having some movement, if you will. So it's a combination of strategies we're working on, but we'll be giving an update to council sometime in June.
We've completed a number of improvements to our existing parks. We had money in the capital improvement plan this year to advance those, and we saw improvements in Loma Linda, Parque de Paz, and Palmatier parks. And we also are including that in fiscal year 15 budget, which we have reviewed with the council to continue those efforts. We completed our citizen satisfaction survey using the new model of our national citizen survey, so we could benchmark not only against other Arizona cities that use that survey, but also national comparable cities And we just completed that, and council just had a work session on that. And as you saw in our model, then that is information that we then use to frame discussions with the council on prioritization for next fiscal year's budget. Our new website, which has been a priority, is very close to launching. We'll see that go live in July, so we're very excited about that. We opened our new library earlier this year, and we also have continued to hold our events in the city, such as the Tale of Two Cities, GAIN, the Home Plate for the Holidays, which have happened since the last update. And we also added a new event this year, the Estrella Lakeside Music Fest, which was also received very well by the community. And then lastly, in quality of life, our Telecom 911 Center, we had our grand opening today, as a matter of fact. So very excited about the upgrade of that facility for our emergency response and our dispatchers in the community. We recently implemented a volunteer fire inspector program to assist us with our fire prevention efforts, which is directly in line with our management audit recommendations that we received about a year ago. We held a very successful spring training season, over 173,000 fans coming to Goodyear to enjoy games in Goodyear this spring. We've talked a lot about the remediated water line that is going to bring more cost-effective water resources to the ballpark. That has been under design, and that will be completed this fall, so we've made significant progress on that over the last 6 months. We've maintained our Read On City designation through the Arizona Literacy Foundation, which is supported by the Citywide Reading Challenge that just completed its second successful event with expanded participation this year. And in regards to El Rio, we have an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Avondale, Buckeye, and Maricopa County Flood District for a consultant to establish design standards for that recreational corridor. So we have been working with them to advance that, and we'll continue to work with them as that consultant is selected and we move forward with those design standards. And then also continue our commitment to a well-maintained and clean community. We have incorporated into the budget, we've assessed the priorities and focused on 4 areas for median enhancements in the fiscal year 15 budget, 4 areas that are currently unimproved, and then also ensuring that we can maintain our right-of-way maintenance standards, and recommended that we add a right-of-way maintenance crew for fiscal year 15. So that's just some of the highlights that are within the plan. I could stop at this point if there's any questions about those items, or move right to updates.
I'll just make a statement. I think it's been very ambitious. I think I compliment council, city manager, and staff. Yeah, it isn't a lot of things above the ground that are, waving red flags, but there's a lot of infrastructure going in, a lot of improvement. It's just amazing when you start hearing you rattle this off. We think, well, what have we done? Well, it's just a portion, because you didn't talk about it all. So anyway, congratulations. They say, why, we're always touting somebody, but you can't help tout it when you see the great work that compliments to the city manager that staff has done. So,
Thank you.
Go ahead.
As I mentioned, at the council retreat in November, one of the areas that we discussed was adding a transportation goal under economic vitality. As we went through the development of our result maps for priority-based budgeting, we used our existing goals in our plan, but noted that transportation, while we had items in the plan, it was not highlighted specifically, and those items that were in our plan were within a long-range planning goal. And so what we did is we took those items that related to transportation and developed a specific goal, as council requested, to highlight the transportation elements in the plan. So
They don't have that on their slide.
Right,
so
yes,
just
I
wanna
added
make
that,
sure
'cause I
you
thought that would
realize,
be
everybody, that you're just
easier
filling
to
in
visual.
what they did from the last time we had a discussion, so.
So what we did under economic vitality, we added a goal number 7, and the wording is, as you see there on the screen, which is plan for, develop, and sustain a safe, effective, and well-maintained transportation system and alternative mobility options. That language is based on the priority-based budgeting result map that focuses on transportation and mobility. And again, because we want to make sure we're keeping those in alignment, so as we update the plan, we're evaluating our programs according to the same standards. We also added action items, so if you can visualize at the retreat, we had a bunch of things that were both council and staff ideas to add to the plan under our existing goals. And so here we see the items that relate to the direction that we received to evaluate and incorporate. And we'll also, these will sound familiar to you because we've also discussed them as part of the budget process, which is the evolution that we had discussed. So we have incorporated in there the facilities master plan, our pavement management needs assessment, the El Rio project, which I just mentioned, the median landscaping and making sure that we're continuing to focus on moving those unimproved areas forward to get those enhanced. Our police facility needs, which we've talked about quite a bit in the budget process, not only in terms of evidence facility, but also the Phase 1 patrol operations. Our electronic patient care reporting, if you recall, the fire department had received a grant to support that effort, and they're developing a program to bring forward to the council on how they would implement that. And then also the pursuit of entertainment options. We spent quite a bit of time talking about that particular item within the context of economic vitality and recruitment. And so as we discussed the Focus on Success plan, which was brought forward to the council for adoption, that item is in there, and then we've also incorporated it into the action plan so we can continue to provide updates for the council on that particular item.
Excuse me. Now, unless it's been in here and I missed it, wouldn't you call a new action item the asset replacement fund that we're going, isn't that the name of it going forward?
Yes, Mayor and Councilmember Osborne, we do have that in our plan currently today, and that was incorporated, I believe, in the first
Was it in the first
iteration
one?
of the
Okay.
plan, and then also incorporated into the city manager annual objective. So I didn't highlight that, but we do have that in here.
And going forward with, and I don't know if we should, I guess I could wait till the tentative budget discussion rather than discuss it here, I suppose. Just discussing how long this is going to take, and is it going to be with the looking at studying
Assessment
where,
management?
yes,
Oh, okay.
how long, that $5 million we're putting into this replacement fund. And so is it going to take a year's time to figure out where the asset needs are going to be, and that $5 million is sitting there? Because some of that funding is assets of our parks. And so I wonder if it's better spent on assets we know, since the park master plan was already completed. So if I'm getting off topic here and I should take it to the next, I can, but I just don't know where it is.
Let's
So-
take care of it.
Okay.
I'm fine. Are you fine with it, city manager? Ed, is it okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
all right,
I
let's-
asked Mr. Beckley to
all right,
respond to that.
let's
Thank
go with
you.
it here,
Thank
Dwayne.
you.
Council, there are a number of different assets that we have, as Larry Lang has previously discussed. We have, in addition to the vehicle fleet, we have the roads inventory, we have equipment at the wastewater plants, water features. Our buildings, our facilities, all require investment. Because this has been the pattern in the past, before we begin to pick out that particular area to fix, we don't really have a relationship as far as what the critical need is for that component. Part of the asset management is to not just develop the list, but also develop a reason for and a risk assessment of each component that we're evaluating. So we look at the life cycle, we'll look at all of the appropriate criteria for this, and come back with a composite list so it can be better evaluated as far as what is the greatest need of the city. It might be, in a particular case, a vehicle equipment need. It could be a building need, or it could be a paving improvement. The purpose of doing the comprehensive study is to better understand the total scope of the need for investment, So over the next year, we're looking at trying to get that inventory compiled so that by the budget preparation for next fiscal year, we'll be able to have some easy-to-understand evaluations and results of that analysis, and then share with council as far as where we recommend those investments to be. So it's more really to get our arms around the total need, and then establishing a programmed investment, not just for 1 year, but for a 10-year period, so that we can better plan and finance these improvements.
Well, and I totally respect that, and I think this is a great thing to go forward with. I guess what I was thinking about was, if this $5 million is going to be sitting there for 9 months of the next year, and we've already had our Parks Master Plan taken care of, we've already assessed the needs that are occurring in those assets, and I thought that 20% of the money was supposed to be quality of life type of, well, that's parks. And that's why I'm just sitting there thinking that I would hate to see us go 9 months to a year assessing all this and then say, oh yeah, the park needs it, and we could have already taken care of it, you know. And so that's just, I'm just thinking in the future, and I'm sitting there just really seeing the need of some of the items that have already been addressed within the master plan. And so, I guess at the end of the day, if you come back 9 months from now and say, you know what, this street is going to take $3.5 million, and we know that it's the biggest issue in our city today, then that, covers it. And so I understand that's why you want to take it down that route. But
Well, I think where I see it is that sometimes decisions on different areas are made on an emotional basis. It's made on citizens' requests without the information, without the knowledge or the history behind it. And I think it prevents us from kind of making those quick decisions because it's an emotional one, because we think it's a city rather than 10 citizens or 1 citizen. So for me, it just will keep me focused on, okay, let's look at this list. Not to let parks go, but I think that we're probably more aware of parks because it's so, those things are more visible, and maybe some of the things that the city has to do that are not so visible but are costly and can be set aside and forgotten for a long period of time. So I guess my whole point of this thing is because I can focus on then, it's still through the year being able to, we are flexible, we've set this up so we're very flexible on certain things depending on the cost. But that's, I don't know, does anybody else want to weigh in on this?
The need assessment was done by staff, not by an emotional response.
you
But
misunderstood.
it was that's what I'm talking about, though.
No.
The need of a park that is underperforming because it needs to be, brought up to date. And so I'm thinking of that. If not in, we all want other things, but I'm thinking of an actual parks assessment that has been done by our staff that has said, these are issues within this park. That's what I was
Can I
referring
get,
to.
Sherry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm hearing two different things here, so I want to make sure that
Yeah,
I'm
I
on.
am too.
The assessment, Bob, you're talking about is going to be an assessment of all assets
Yes.
within the city, right? Everything, not just parks, it's everything.
Correct.
And then we know there's issues with parks. That'll be, I want to say, rated or weighted with the rest of it, so when we do the priority budget next time around, we'll know where the funds need to go out of that whole list, and we can see if, like I think the mayor was saying, whether there's something that needs more attention sooner than parks, or where everything falls. So is this a whole comprehensive list?
It's intended to be a comprehensive list of the most critical assets and the ones of the most need. I think Kim was going to bring up some information regarding the parks improvements.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention also, as Councilmember Osborne talked about, we did look at pursuant to council discussion of how can we balance our discretionary money in the capital plan to make sure we are addressing those quality of life type projects and it's not all just the infrastructure. And so we do have $250,000 in fiscal year 15 for parks improvements specifically. And as we've talked about how that would be applied, it would be, I think, in the manner that you're talking about, where they would look at those needs in the community according to their performance metrics and allow that to move forward next year. So that is separate from this $5 million replacement that would allow that to move forward next year.
And that's an example of one of those areas that had been previously already identified, and it's clear as far as what the work is needed. That's going to be the first, I guess, if you will, our emphasis on asset management. That is part of the program. It's just going to be broadened over the course of the year, and then for subsequent years.
Any other questions? Bill?
Different subject. Kim, and before I even ask my question, I don't have a problem with this, so let me just clarify it before I go any farther. But it seems that electronic patient care reporting is a pretty low program to make its way into the, and again, I'm not talking about the rating of it compared to the city, but that seems very, to use our term, that seems very in the weeds for this level document. Is there a reason, usually the stuff that we get in here hits pretty high level, hits across the city, and that seems to be very department specific. I mean, if the fire department were to, get involved in some great new cardiac thing, I don't know that that would be a council action. It would be more of a manager's action. So I'm just curious why.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Stipp. It's this specific item, two things. It's listed specifically as that was brought up at the council retreat for discussion. I will note that we did not highlight it as its own individual action item. In Quality of Life Goal 1, where we talk about public safety business process improvements, we have, I'll call more of a general goal or action item that is talking about continuous improvement by evaluating how we provide department services to the community. So that's our overall action item, and I highlighted this one specifically because that was discussed at the retreat, but there are several other items in there related to performance measures, the fire prevention initiatives that I mentioned, as well as the telecom facility. So I called one out of a specific example in that one goal, if that answers your question. Okay.
You fine?
It's an answer.
Okay. Thank you.
So that concludes my official presentation. As I mentioned, if there are any questions or other comments or direction to update the draft plan before it's brought back to council, I'd be happy to make those or answer any questions that you might have. The next steps are that the plan will be brought back for council adoption on June 23rd.
Yes, Joanne?
Thank you. Page 16, you, and when I say page 16, I mean of the actual document itself. You talk about some of our larger corporations and things like that within the city. And you know what? Our largest, our now largest company within our city is the West Valley Hospital.
Right.
And it should be in there. And I would appreciate if you put that in there. Thank you.
Councilmember.
But going through this document, it also did raise a couple of follow-up questions that I have that, Brian, if you could get back to us on. And one was giving us an update on the Innovation Hub, just to see how it's going since the library opened. I'd love to hear, how that's going. And maybe you were planning on doing that within the next month. I just don't know. And the other one was, I know that we came here when we got these guys. What happened to the electronic voting thing? That we had it, and then it never happened. So those were just a couple that had come up. that I was about.
And Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, I could actually address those. On the Innovation Hub, we actually do have some facts now that I'll be sharing with council as I go through my one-on-ones. For specific businesses, but then also more, so I can go into more detail with you, as opposed to just sending you a copy of something. And then the other is just how much activity is it getting? So we do have that available, just got that available this month, and I'll be sharing that as I go through one-on-ones with council. And we may even look at how to format that, how to get it out to all of the council at one time as well. This being the first month, we're just kind of experimenting with it, if you will. So that would address that one. Regarding electronic voting, that still is something we're looking at, and it is absolutely being evaluated right now, but we'll bring you updates as those are available.
The last item that I wanted to bring up that had not really come into play when we had our retreat in November, but it was adding on to the building blocks for education, and we have the reading challenge. But another item that has come up is a writing challenge, an essay writing challenge for high schoolers, because we're hitting the K through 8th with our reading challenge and just highlighting more for an essay challenge. And so I just wanted to throw that out to the council, that hopefully we'll have something to show you coming soon on that.
I know it's up for discussion.
Right.
And it would come to the council before we make a decision on that, on
Of
the
course.
writing thing.
Of
Okay,
course,
so
yeah.
they're looking at putting it together. And again, you have to look at all aspects of how this would be and the cost and how it would be handled and all that, so.
So would this be a city initiative? Is this what we're trying to do? or
Well, a
what?
council person has brought it up, Councilman Osborne has, and so it's like all of our issues we bring for the table. That's a new agreement that we don't go into until we weigh out the cost and the reason and all the other things connected with this. And so this is a little bit different, a little more to it. So when they get it done, we bring it to you and you can all, discuss it, okay?
Okay, I was going to say maybe
And the
we
only
could
reason it
start
hasn't been
thinking.
brought to you yet is I think
Yeah.
they're still trying to put the whole thing together to have a good presentation to all of you, okay? So sorry, Joanne, nobody got back at you. I'm assuming somebody got back to you.
Oh, no, we are. I just wanted to let you guys know that was another item to go
Yeah,
with.
yeah, but it's
As
not
we
a
talk
done,
about-
it's
Oh,
like
so
anything, it's not a done deal.
That part of this plan that she's presenting?
No,
or what?
No, this is all
Oh, we're-
separate.
we're on
This is a
another
new-
one.
This is a new.
Okay.
Is that an agenda item for November's retreat?
Yeah,
Is that how
I
we're
mean, I
doing
don't
that?
know.
Well, we really haven't gotten that where, when I had a discussion on it, we said we were going to discuss it, and so it could be done at the November.
Mayor, if I may, that's exactly the time that initiatives like that is they're brought up. One, and you have to also look at the cycle of when they actually come in as well. That one, staff is evaluating, working with the high school. But the other part of that is as council, each council member has an initiative, something they want to bring up. Most often that is at the council retreat where those are brought up and prioritized. For this reason, because as of right now, it's not in the strategic action plan. That's what we're working off of. So if it's not in there, we're still fact-finding and things like that. But to go forward, that would require 3 council members or the mayor or the manager to bring that forward for a vote, if you will, or a direction at that point. But typically, those are talked about at the council retreats because there are a lot of ideas that come up. So still not sure of the timing on this one. But right now, I would say it'd be something more for the strategic action plan. But again, we're still working on it.
Comments?
I have one.
Yes,
Can we,
Bill?
would it be simpler if we discussed our involvement in education as opposed to these individual shots? Would that be easier for staff to have a bigger discussion on
And what-
simply our support of education?
Where do you think the council should be?
Yeah.
I think you could bring it all together, but, because
That's what I'm saying, so we're
that's a
not-
good example.
So we're not doing building blocks here and then reading
Yeah.
here and then writing over here and
Yeah.
maybe just have that holistic
And,
discussion.
and along, you can even bring, although it's not really, well, it is to the school, the art.
Right,
the-
exactly,
The
your
mayor, the
mayors.
mayor's thing, that could be also a part for everybody to discuss, too, that we've already.
It's a holistic look at the
Yeah,
whole,
yeah.
everything.
Sherry?
I think when we look at, I like Bill's idea of looking at it as a holistic, because the schools right now, switching over to Common Core and everything, I think we really need to look at a holistic, so we aren't doing a shotgun approach. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, all right, we're going to adjourn the meeting, we've got 20 minutes, we have to start right on time. We're going to go by that clock over there, okay, the back one, it's a better one, it gives us 20 minutes. All right, meeting adjourned.
It was 13.